Some people build restaurants. Paul Spinoglio builds tributes to familiar, to memory, to the kind of hospitality that isn't taught but lived, passed down like a world-loved recipe seasoned with soul. On the Coffs Harbour coast, you'll find two of his stories served daily. Silvio's Italiano, named for the father whose spirit still simmers in every pot, and JB and Café, a rhythm of coffee, care and community. But what you won't find on the menu is the full journey. The grief behind the gratitude, the risk behind the risotto, the quiet courage it takes to begin again and again. Today, we sit with Paul, not just to talk food or business, but to honour what's real, the people we love, the places we hold close, and the magic that lives in showing up with heart. This is a conversation not about perfection, but about being grateful for the mess, for the moments, for the chance to turn a table into a memory.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Very excited to be here. Looking forward to it.
Good on you, Paul, mate. I'm glad you're here. Now, Paul, take us back. How did it all begin for you?
Oh, mate, I've been in hospitality all my life. I've had a family that's been in hospitality through the generations. My old man, Silvio, he came out on the boats after the Second World War. So as an Italian immigrant, went to North Queensland, did the cutting of the cane fields, was their first jobs. Then he moved into hospitality. And so hospitality has always been part of me. Since I was growing up, I was always in one type of a venue or another, whether it was a motel, a pub, a golf club, lots of different venues. We lived in them as well as operating them. So my childhood in the early days was all about being raised in those hospitality types of venues. And that's, I suppose, the beginning where it got into my blood, and it stayed there forever, mate.
Wow. That's amazing. It's sort of similar to my story, mate, with my parents growing up and living the dream of hospitality.
I think that's something that happens to all of us, mate. When we are, as the immigrants come and they fall into the culture of Australia and learn that culture and become part of it and bring their culture with them to form part of Australia's culture, we grow up in that and we learn those different aspects of it, and then we obviously hand that down to our children as time goes by.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Paul, tell me, when your father came out to Australia, was it for a better life?
Yeah, mate. The stories that he tells me, or told me, he's passed away now, he would often say that, during the war, it was a very, very tough time after the war as well, trying to put food on the table. They were in a very poor situation. His family was quite stable, and I was going to say the word well off then, but I don't know if that makes sense after what I just said. But, his father was part of the government, and he was so well-to-do from that point of view. But he always told the story of after the war, it was a very tough time. They would struggle to get food. Food was very regional. Like the typical Italian story of the North was known for this particular food, the South was known for that particular food. And the food stayed in those regions in those times. It didn't travel between, and that's so they ate the same thing all the time, and they struggled to put food on the table. So for him, it was about opportunity, about a new life. He was a twin. He was an identical twin. So his identical twin, Gabby, he stayed in Italy. And his sister Ada, they stayed in Italy, and his parents obviously stayed in Italy as well. So he was the one that left. He always says that it broke his mother's heart when he left to come to Australia and create a new life. But I've been very fortunate to go out and visit them when I was younger, and Ada and her children have come out to Australia and met the family over here. So times got a lot better, but they were certainly tough in those early days, mate.
It sure sounds like it. Like my parents, mate, they came out for a better opportunity and to survive because of the hardships that were present in their day and age.
The stories you hear, and I mean, without getting too graphic, some of the things they used to eat and what they'd catch on the street, and just to survive in those war times was pretty dramatic, and I think it would be pretty hard to take.
Yes, it would be, mate. Well, we live in better times, and we're grateful for that.
Certainly are. Very grateful.
Now, Paul, what's your first memory of food?
It's funny. that you asked that, actually, mate, because I'm actually not someone that remembers a lot of my early childhood, but there's some things that really do stick out. And one of the things that sticks out is food. And, because I was raised in an environment of hospitality venues, one of those early childhood memories for me was we would be living in a motel, and it was that style of motel where you'd cook breakfast for the guests in the morning, and there'd be the a hole in the wall to the motel room and a tray. You'd slide the tray in and for breakfast. And so I used to wake up early and probably annoy the living daylights out of the parents. So the old man used to say, "Go and help the kitchen. Go and annoy the people in the kitchen. Leave us alone." And so I'd go down to the kitchen and help them. And so earlier, the chef would turn up at 5 a.m. and I'd be in there and I'd just want food. So he knew to feed me straight away. Yeah. I was a food baby, mate. The moment you fed me, I was happy. And nothing's much changed, by the way. Clearly, I'd go in there. I've probably eaten more eggs in my life than most people have. And he'd be cooking me eggs and he'd be making me taste everything. Dad used to say to him, make him taste everything. Don't ruin him either. Don't go cooking a steak for him that's well done. Make sure it's blue, and make sure his eggs are runny, and all of those ways that Dad used to like to eat his food was how I was raised to enjoy food. So that was really my early memories of food, being involved in a kitchen. I certainly wasn't cooking or doing anything like that. I was probably standing around getting in the way and annoying them. It was my first memory of food early on.
And with the food memory that you have, what do you associate? Familiar? Like, is that really?
I'd say happiness and what's the word? Joy. Mm-hmm. Food for me, I don't. In hospitality, how we scoff food down all the time because we're always on a run. We're moving quickly in a restaurant and a cafe, and we don't, not like the rest of the world where they go out for their half-hour breaks or hour breaks. We just don't get that in hospitality because when everyone's in for lunch is when we're busy. And so we scoff food down. I really dislike eating that way. For me, food is about enjoying it, taking time, the food being cooked slowly. For me, there's nothing better than seeing a 8-hour slow cooked lamb shoulder or a beef brisket and turned into a dish that you then sit at the table and graze over with some other dishes as well, as opposed to a plate of food that you would just sit there and eat. Can be beautiful, can be delicious, love it still. But for me, it's about that real enjoyment is that extended period of time, talking to your friends, chatting to your family, whoever's there sharing that moment with you and enjoying that food. So it brings that happiness and joy to you whilst you're enjoying it.
They're definitely precious moments, aren't they?
Oh, they're the ones. I think that's why Christmas and celebrations are so memorable, because we tend to do that. A lot of cultures tend to do that, but when you have those special moments and celebrations, we don't rush things. We take our time, we celebrate with each other, we enjoy each other's company, we graze over the food, we talk while we're making it. In any culture, you like to give each other a bit of a hard time and, this pastor, I cook this differently, what do you do? And all of those conversations go back and forward between the families, and they're the times that I really enjoy.
Yeah. In amongst all the noise of social media, right?
Yep.
You said that it's great to sit down and just take a moment to enjoy the food. Like, how do you switch off from the noise, the surrounding noise that we get bombarded?
Yeah, great question, Andrew. Because social media is such a huge part of what we do these days and everything that we do. It's all around us. It's something that I've had to learn to do, I must admit. I don't know that I've mastered that yet. I don't know that that's something that I'm necessarily great at. I do look at a lot of social media. We both recognise that the old school ways of free-to-air TV is on its way out, and all of those other channels, whether it's YouTube's or social medias, they're becoming more prevalent. But I think it's important sometimes just to turn that phone off. It's important to go away, enjoy your time together with whoever you are with. I saw something recently of a restaurant in Sydney, and I thought, it's a super idea. It's a very well-known restaurant. When you enter the front door, they take your phone off you, and it goes into a big wine bucket. That's so that you can't take photos of the food and you actually can't get on your phone. You actually enjoy each other's company. And I thought, wow, that's really, first of all, courageous of them to do that, but fantastic because they really recognize the importance of connecting, that connection with each other and sharing those moments and being grateful to have that time with each other as opposed to being on their phones. So, and being on social media. So I think, social media has a great, important role to play, but also I think we have an important role to play in getting off it and making sure we do get that balance of life.
Yeah. As a restaurateur, Paul, in the hospitality industry, you mentioned that restaurant. It's very courageous. Do you think in the future more and more restaurants will be doing that because the rarity of that connection will disappear because everyone is more engaged in the screen rather than the human persona?
Look, I think, will it happen more? I'm not sure. I think because social media is becoming stronger and stronger, I don't know whether it will happen. I'd love to see it happen. I think one of the most frustrating things as a restaurateur for me these days is customers that come in whom want to eat and be served very, very quickly and leave. It's not really a dining experience for them. It's just a feed me and go. I do find that a little bit frustrating because I want them to enjoy the environment. I want them to enjoy the vibe and the experience is obviously the total package of everything, not just the food, but the service and their company and the people that they're speaking with. But I think in this day and age where people are used to experiencing things a lot quicker, that's going to be the challenge moving forward. So I'd love to see phones disappear before entering a restaurant, but I'm not so certain it'll happen, mate.
Yeah. You said that you'd like some of your customers not as a grab and go, right? Because of time restrictions, you want them to enjoy the experience. Is there a way that you've done that in your restaurant or you're trying to do it just to slow them down a little bit and to enjoy your hospitality?
Yeah, look, better than anyone. It's all about reading the customer when they arrive and of course, building rapport and trying to what I talk about connecting with people, having a chat to them. You can pretty well work out very quickly whether they're there for the experience or whether they're there for in and out. So I also think it's about, again, getting that balance right and making sure that what we're providing for them is something that they're happy with. So if they are in a hurry, because there might be kids at home, they may have left the kids at home with a babysitter for the first time or the grandparents for the first time, and they're worried and it's a date night, but realistically they just want to get home and make sure everyone's okay. So we've got to acknowledge that, accept those types of reasons and work towards them. But for me, answering that question, mate, it's all about connection. It's interesting. The other day, I was down in my cafe and there was a customer I hadn't seen for a while, and he was sitting there by himself. And I thought, I'll go and have a chat to him. I haven't had a chat to him for a while. And an hour and a half later, and the stories that he told me about where he came from and what he'd done with town planning and what he was working on still, even though he's retired, and where he believed the town could benefit from environmentally and from an exercise pathways. And, it was fascinating chatting to him for that hour and a half. And I came home that night and said to Dale, you know what? Sometimes those connection pieces, those efforts that you make just to talk to people are the most satisfying part of what we do, because you don't really hear that unless you make the effort.
No, that's so true, Paul. But I've always said connection is our currency, and you typify that straight away by connecting with that customer. It really is.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not great at that either, Andrew. I think I have to remind myself to do that sometimes. We're in a super busy world, and
Yeah.
there's always 100 things in my day to do. So I have to tell myself to actually slow down sometimes and make sure I am connecting, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is connection, yeah. To find balance between that, our headspace and the customer, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think someone we both know once said to me that, if you just put that off for an hour, is it going to be the end of the world?
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not. So how about spending that time connecting and then get back to that job a little bit later?
So true, so true. So tell me, how did Silvio's become?
Ooh, that's a decent story. I went through a divorce and relationship breakdown. There was a fair bit of back and forward with what was happening as part of the financial settlement. And that really rocked me, actually, going back a little bit, mate. The divorce, the relationship breakdown was my moment of real hardship, toughness, broke me, wasn't something that I saw coming, wasn't something I expected, and it really shook me to the core. But what that did do was it made me reassess, and it made me go, what do you really want to do with your life? What is it what makes you happy? Why do you do what you do currently? If you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And I actually sat down and reassessed in that period of time and worked out what was important to me, who was important to me. And running a restaurant was something that I'd always wanted to do, running my own. My hospitality background, I've spent a lot of years in the casino world. I opened up Star City in Sydney, the first one, which was Sydney Harbour Casino on the Finger Wharf before it became Star City. I was a food and beverage manager there, ran restaurants and bars. So I've run restaurants and bars most of my life, moved to the Gold Coast, ran restaurants at the Gold Coast Casino as well as a convention centre. I'd run restaurants, but I hadn't run my own with my own money behind it, making the decisions with your own money. I was always using someone else's money. So that was what was behind what I wanted to do. And when you're running a business with someone else's money, they are controlling what you can do and what you can't do, and what you can invest in and what you can't invest in. And so I wanted that freedom to be able to do what I thought was right in the industry. And at the time, I also, moved. My child was young. He was Michael, my son. He was only 3, and I wasn't seeing him much when I was in the casino world. So that was one of the reasons we moved to Coffs Harbour, was because I wanted a daytime business that I could be at home at night time so I could spend that time with him. But then when the relationship breakdown happened and I really wanted to open my own restaurant, he was my first concern. He was when I sat down and went, what do I want to do? And then I thought, hang on, there's other people involved here. If I'm at work every night, what does that mean for Michael? So I sat down with him and said, look, this is what I want to do, mate. This is what I've always really wanted to do. How do you feel about that? Dad wouldn't be at home at night as much. I would be at work more often. He was a teenager at that time. And so I said, no, I don't want an answer now. I want you to go away and think about it and think about the impact that would have on you and whether that's something that you're comfortable with. And I wouldn't do it if you're not. But he came back to me and said, go for it, Dad. It's what you want to do. I know I can tell, by all means, go for it. And so I jumped in, and that's how it started. It was through a bit of a catastrophe, and then, to use your podcast name, mate, but it was through a catastrophe that you then sit down and reassess what's important in life and what it is you really want to do.
Also an awakening for you as well.
Oh, yeah, because, I don't know about you, mate, but how often do we sit down in silence and think about what we want to do? How often do we sit in complete silence with no one else around us and go, are you happy? What makes you happy? What do you want to do with your life? How old are you? What time have you got left? How much time do you want to spend with family? All of those important questions you ask yourself, unless you do them in silence, in complete silence, I don't know whether you've been 100% honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's what it forced me to do. And I don't know that I had done that previously.
Oh, it's powerful questions to ask oneself.
It really is. And sometimes you don't like the answers either. Sometimes the answers can be a little bit confronting and you realise you've got to do a bit of work yourself and on yourself.
Very, very strong words. So you went through your divorce, you had this awakening. Did you, straight off the bat, say, I'm going to name it after my dad?
I thought long and hard about that. I thought it from an emotional point of view, and then I thought it from a business point of view. From a business point of view, it's got to be sold one day. And therefore, it's like, well, do I want to sell something with my dad's name to it? And so I must admit I ummed and ahed a little bit. But in the end, I went, no, you know what? It's me. It's real. The style of the restaurant is exactly what him and I loved. When we traveled through Italy together, we would, he was a foodie just like me. We would sit there and eat our way around every town, regional area you could imagine. So for him and me, it was about kicking back, relaxing, enjoying a red wine, eating beautiful, fresh ingredients, putting on a lot of weight at the same time, unfortunately. That was what we loved doing together. And, just spending time next to each other. We had very similar personalities. So It was, in the end, I went with naming the restaurant after him. Silvio's. I couldn't just name it Silvio's. I had to name it Silvio's Italiano because there is a big company out there, pizza company that's the number one in Australia that still owns the name Silvio's. Before they were Domino's, they were actually called Silvio's, and so they kept that name and have continued to keep that name. So it had to be called Silvio's Italiano. So that's where it originated from, the name.
What a journey, though, Paul. Eating your way through Italy with your dad, that's a beautiful adventure and a cherished memory as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Italy, it was everywhere we went. We traveled Hawaii, we went to lots of places, but it was just what we enjoyed doing. And we would kick back and just watch, and people watch and observe and talk about menus and food. And what was interesting for me, mate, I never learned Italian. He would never teach me Italian. When he came out to Australia, he had that philosophy that I'm an Australian now. I've immigrated. I'm an Australian. I need to completely immerse myself in the Australian culture, and my children will be Australians. And so as much as he could speak 6 languages and English very poorly, but you've never seen a man do a crossword puzzle quicker than Dad do one. I used to look at him and go, you hardly speak English, yet you can punch out a crossword puzzle like 5 minutes, and I'm looking at it going, I've got no idea what the answer is to that. And he'd look at me and go, oh, you learn nothing at school these days. But so, yeah, it was always a good time, us going around and experiencing the foods and the cultures.
What were some of the languages that your dad spoke?
Being from Europe, he spoke French, Latin, obviously Italian, Spanish. His father was working in the Italian consulate in Syria. Dad was born in the Italian embassy in Syria. And so back in those days, Syria was a safer country than what it is now, and not as war-torn as it was. Because his dad, Natali, was worker in the embassy, that's where he was born. As a result of that experience of moving around between embassies, he learned a lot of languages.
I wish I knew more languages.
So do I.
You're never too old to learn, are you?
That's exactly right.
Never too. Do you have a secret behind good food? Is there a secret that you...
Let me think. Look, there he is.
Is it technique, ingredients, or something deeper for you?
For me, it's love. I mean,
yeah.
Yes, technique is important, but you know what? You can get technique 100 really wrong and still have beautiful food. Yeah. So technique's not the most important thing. Technique just makes it maybe look a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah.
Fresh ingredients is crucial. I mean, like with any culture's food, fresh ingredients, over the years, I think sometimes we've overcomplicated food. And when you break it down to the basics of fresh ingredients put together well with love, that is when you get the best food and the best outcomes and dishes that people really enjoy. I mentioned earlier about cooking slowly. In Italy, whenever we make the base of a tomato sauce, we start with a sofrito, which is onion, garlic, celery, carrot, and I think the French call that a mirepoix, and they use butter as the base of theirs, whereas the Italians use extra virgin olive oil.
Yes.
Now, if that's cooked slowly and over a period of time, you've got a foundation for good food, and you just try and make it quickly. It doesn't taste as good. Time, I think, is important. Love, care, fresh ingredients.
Definitely. I hear the passion that you have with the whole story of Silvio's Italiano. That passion, how do you put it onto your staff? How do you convey that feeling that you have?
Yeah, that's something that I've had to learn to be better at, actually. I don't know whether you've experienced this, Andrew, but with your ventures, that sometimes I feel like I will have explained something to a team member once, and then they know it, and therefore they understand it, and therefore they will have that as part of their belief system or whatever it might be. But one of the things I've learned is I need to repeat that message multiple times, so for it to be ingrained. And so, for example, for me now, before I start every meeting, before I start every discussion, kitchen discussion, menu change, team meetings, I always start with what is the most important thing is we need to get authenticity correct. It must be authentic. I don't want it done shortcut ways. I don't want it done cheaply. I want authentically done. Because if it's done authentically, it will taste better. It will take longer to make. So they can't do the shortcuts.
Yeah.
Ends up better on the plate and people love the food better. So that's the message I have to try and get across more frequently than I probably have done in the past.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like what you're saying, making it authentic, is pretty much your identity, isn't it? You being very authentic and open and vulnerable.
I think it is. I think it's really important.
Mm.
Look, there's, mate, you know what it's like in Australia. We've got pineapple on pizzas, and we have, we'll make a carbonara with cream, or there's the Australian way of doing things. And, I've certainly had my fair share of customers that have come in and said, that's not a carbonara because it doesn't have cream in it. And I'm like, oh, you don't want to make someone sound like they don't know what they're talking about, but where's that balance of, oh, okay, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy that. Let me, can I make that for you again, or can I offer you something else, because that is the way we make our dish. And so there's that aspect of authenticity that sometimes the Australian way won't understand.
Yeah.
So we've got to get that balance right. We've got to certainly take that into consideration. But at the core and the foundation still is authenticity.
It sure is. Now, moving on from Silvio's Italiano, you also have a cafe.
Yes.
And JBN. How did that come about for you?
Well, that was the cafe that I purchased with my ex-wife back when I wanted to get out of the casino world. When I wasn't seeing my son, he was 3 years old. I wasn't home at night. There was one particular day in particular I remember. I'd worked from like 6 a.m. through till 10 at night, and my boss said to me, "I'll see you tomorrow at 6." And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not going to see my child. He's a boy. You know what it's like, us men and boys, we bond. We like to spend time together. He was only 3, but we still like to do it.
Yeah.
And it was a defining moment for me, and that's what made me go, it's time to look, it's time to move. JBN Cafe, and JBN stands for Just Be Nice. That was the name of the business when it was purchased, and there was a really good owner prior to me that had that. I came down and looked at that business multiple times before making an offer to purchase. Looked at the town, looked at the people around, and just to see whether it was an environment that I'd be happy in.
How long have you had the business for, Paul?
20 years this year, actually. Coming up to 20 years. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of refits in there, and doing a complete refit, rebrand of that again very soon.
It sounds exactly my journey as well. It's been 20 years since we've had Café Luro. Similar journeys, mate.
I love looking at your socials when they come through, because I find that that whole Lura is such a beautiful part of the world in the Blue Mountains, and it just looks so peaceful and elegant. And inside your venue I just love it. I love everything that you do in there, and I love your authenticity about it. The fact that your family's involved, it looks like it's a beautiful business, mate.
No, thank you for that, Paul. We have to be authentic and true to ourselves.
Yeah.
Is there one lesson that your father taught you that still lives in the way you serve?
I'm going to say connection.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't actually pick up on it in the beginning. I don't know that I was smart enough to pick up on it in the beginning. He was a very charismatic person. He was a very energetic person. He was the life of the party. He was a big personality. People would come to him, associate with him. And so he connected very well with people. People loved being around him. I just saw that as Dad's personality when I was younger. I didn't actually see the benefit, the value in it from a business point of view at first. And it wasn't until I've got a bit older that I picked up on that and went, oh, that's why it was so important. He's taught me that connection part very well. I still reflect back on that with him these days. I think of him every day, actually. There wouldn't be a day that goes past where I don't think of him. He was great at connecting. But interestingly, Andrew, the moment the day was over, he was an introvert. He was very quiet. When he turned up to work, it was showtime. It was all about connecting with everybody. So he was the master at it.
I think our businesses are like stages. We perform, connect as much as we can to our customers with with beautiful hospitality. And when the door closes, it's our life again.
100%. What are the types of things that you do when you get out of that business and you go home and you're with your family? What do you do to disconnect from work and reconnect with the family?
What I like to do is just mentally say I'm pulling out my circuit breaker out of my head. That's what I do even before I sit down. And so I don't get the distraction of the noise that's happened before. I like to spend time at the gym, exercise, just to sort of blow the cobwebs away, because any thoughts that have come into my head, by the end of a session, it's pretty much on a piece. I think I relax a lot. And then with the family, I just like to sit down and have a meal, or even prepare a meal in front. We can chat and just chew the fat, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, to me, that connection without the outside distractions. Now that we have my children involved, I do consciously, when we do sit down and talk, when we're all together, I do say, hang on, this is family time right now. It's not business time. Staff meeting or anything. Let's be aware of that, so we can still connect as a family and not have the distractions. So there's definitely boundaries that I'm trying to build as well, so we are connected now.
Sounds like you're making a great effort at that, mate.
Look, it is challenging because it's very new to me as well to step back slightly from the business and let the legacy still carry on with my children, because they are interested in the business, and to just to show them, but also to mentor them, because it's a great industry to be in, hospitality. I just love the vibe, the feedback you get, and the connection of connecting with people, the familyness. The hospitality, we call it philoxenia, the Greeks call it, where, everyone comes into your business, you want to treat them as a friend, sit down, let's have a meal, let's chat, chill, and just enjoy it before you go out into that world and get bombarded with the noise.
It's a great way from getting away from all of those pressures and stresses of life, is go to your local cafe, your local restaurant, relax and enjoy yourself.
We are like a sanctuary, I believe, in the modern world.
It's an opportunity to get away and really wind down a little bit when you go to a restaurant.
No, truly matters, yeah. So tell me, the success that you've had with your businesses, has it brought healing to you?
Has it brought healing?
Or is it more questions on what truly matters to you?
I'm going to say it's the journey. I don't know that. I don't know that it's the success or any failures. I mean, from failure is learnings,
Correct.
and from those learnings is improvement. and excuse me. And then I think it's the journey where I think I get the most from. The journey, I've learned to enjoy the journey, as opposed to setting myself the goal of I've got to get to this point, and when I get to that point I'm successful. I used to think like that a while back. Oh, well, when I get to this point, well, that means I've made it or I'm successful. For me, it's about kicking back and enjoying the journey, enjoying the ride, enjoying the people, because for me, that's life. I mean, there's no use just skipping past that part and not enjoying it. It's got to be fun. Every time I'm in any of my venues, it's tried to be happy and have fun and be grateful. I think grateful for everything that we have.
So true. Gratefulness is a very humbling experience.
It's when we start to look at things from that point of view and be grateful, I think we reflect better.
Yes, of course. Is there something people misunderstand about you or your business that you think about?
I think sometimes, whether you have this particular challenge, but I find sometimes people look at a business and it's shiny and bright lights and in social media, and so they can be a little bit of a tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
Must be big business, must be rolling in it, must be super successful. But the question of, is there anything about me that's misunderstood, or the business that's misunderstood? We're just a small business like everybody else. We're just that family business that is doing our best like everybody else.
Of course.
We're not perfect. We're far from perfect. I think everybody is. But I think we're just striving every day to do our absolute best to make sure that we can serve people really well, provide beautiful food, connect with people. And I think if we do that well, then people are happy. I think the misunderstood part is we're just like everybody else. There might be some bright, shiny lights out there that people think that sometimes he's got two businesses. I'm just like everyone else. We're just a small business trying to make ends meet and do well for ourselves.
You're a small business, but you're giving so much back to a community, its economy, everything that comes around that small business.
I mean, small business is, for me, the foundation, the crux of the economy. I mean, small business is what gives back to the community, whether it's sporting teams, dance clubs, you name it. We're the first people they ask for vouchers from and money from. We're the first people that all of those groups ask for things from. So we offer it because it's the right thing to do. We're part of the community, and we want to be doing the right thing for the community, because when we're all in it together, we all help each other together.
Exactly.
Makes life a whole lot easier.
Once again, connection is our currency.
That's right.
Is there a dish that you have distilled your story into it? A particular dish?
About 1,000 dishes, mate. This body's had many dishes in it. I just want you to know. It's a tough one to go with.
Yeah.
Look, I'll probably choose lasagna.
Okay.
And here's why. I could have chosen 100 things, but there's layers to lasagna. There's time to make lasagna. There's technique in making pasta, fresh pasta. There's a foundation required for the sauce. From the sauce, you're then adding 2 different meats. You're finishing it with a beautiful bechamel. There's a lot to it. And I think that's probably a dish that sums up for me, because there's so many layers to it.
Paul, that's so true. That's the human genome.
Absolutely.
Layers and layers and layers that we've made up of.
We've all got layers, and we've all got stories, and
Yes.
we all go out every day. People dress up, look fantastic. Makeup goes on, suits and ties go on. When you break it all down, when you pull it all off, at the end of the day, we're all human beings with the same challenges.
I call this show the full catastrophe, right? The mess, the magic, the mystery of being, as we said, a layered human being. What does that phrase mean to you?
The full catastrophe, for me, when you first put that out, actually, I thought that's a brilliant name. Yeah, and I'll tell you why I really liked it. Because, as I mentioned earlier, it's through challenges that we then reassess, and it's through a catastrophe that we then go, what now? What next? What do I do? Catastrophe could be a failure, right? So you might have failed at something, but you fail forward, right? You don't just stay down. You get back up again, and you go again, and you try harder, and you learn from your lessons, and you move forward. And I've made plenty of mistakes, learned lots of lessons along the way, and still will. So for me, full catastrophe, it means where have we fallen down, and how have we gotten back up again and moved forward from it? Where are you at now?
Yeah. Wow. Love it. I love it. I really do.
Is that how you came up with the name? What was your reasoning behind it, mate?
My reasoning was from the movie Zorba the Greek.
Okay.
Anthony Quinn, American tourist, asked Zorba, "Are you Greek?" And Zorba answers him, "Am I Greek? I'm married. I have children. I have work. The full catastrophe."
I love it. Love it. And look, when you add all those things together, it's definitely a catastrophe, mate.
It is, but it's the full journey. And Greeks are known for their tragedies, their art, their operas. Same with the Italians, right? Yeah. It's the full circle of being a human, whatever you face. I think that sums up all of it, all of our journey of life, because it's ongoing. It never stops. It's just round and round a catastrophe. Yeah.
It's interesting because, we've got some common friends that have younger children, and I listen to their stories at the moment, and I have a little bit of a chuckle to myself because they were my stories a while back.
Yeah.
Now that my children are older, in their 20s, and so are yours, and that part of life has moved on, but I still remember those days. Those days were a huge challenge of trying to get the kids to school and trying to get them out of bed, and where'd they leave their shoes, and I forgot my homework, and the dog ate this and that, and the full catastrophe. And I have a bit of a chuckle to myself every time I hear it, because I thought, oh, those days, they were a while back, but I still remember them very clearly.
Now, the future for you. Have you got things in the pipeline that you're working on?
I'm working on pasta sauces at the moment. I've got a few things happening, but pasta sauces is my number one goal at the moment. We often get asked in the restaurant for our sauces, and in the past we've always just put them in a takeaway container, sold them that way, and I thought, you know what, it's time for us to become a little bit more professional, and this is probably the moment for me to make my dad proud if he was alive. I've named the sauces after him, so they're Silvio's pasta sauces. I've got a range of 4 or 5 coming out. It's all about the authentic sauce, how it originated, how it's made, the time it takes to make it, the flavors. And I really want to get them into the supermarket range, because I believe there's a lot of product in that supermarket range at the moment that's very artificial.
Yeah.
It's pretty exciting times. It's a journey to go through the whole understanding how the supermarkets work and the margins they need and the type of labeling required and the packaging required and the documentation of where the packaging comes from, all of that, which I won't bore you with. But so there's a bit of a journey there and a bit of hard work, but I've never been scared of hard work, mate. So I'll have a crack at it and give it a go.
Sounds very successful, that it will be. Tell me, will there be a photo of your dad on the label, like Paul Newman?
There is, mate. There is a photo of Dad right smack bang in the middle of the label, and so it's very him, all about him.
I look forward to those sauces, Paul. I think it'll be great, mate. Just to add to your successes. That's fantastic, Paul. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being a guest on the Full Catastrophe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for being vulnerable as well.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy chatting with you. We can speak for hours. Well, and I look forward to us catching up again next time. But I wish you and this podcast the absolute best. I know you're going to discover some really interesting stories of people out there, and I wish you the very best, mate.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.